Hello there. This is an Abu Garcia, like MJX or something. Let me see if I can. MX130R. It's inexpensive reel that I've had decades. If you take care of reels and stuff, they can last a fairly long time. Even the cheaper ones. I don't know about nowadays, but this is 25 years or more old. But it's got an issue. First of all, sometimes when you do the bail, sometimes it closes just fine. Then other times, it won't do it now. But I had massive issues with it. It's not doing it now. It's working just fine now. But we're gonna try to kind of alleviate the problem that I was having. But a lot of times, what was happening is I would do that right there. And it would stop. It would stick and it wouldn't close. It would just spin. So I don't know what's going on, but I know just as soon as I can't make it do it here, but I know just as soon as I put this back on the reel or on the rod and start trying to fish with it, it's going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get, if you look at this, unless there's some other way to do it, that doesn't have a screw head on it, and neither does that. There's some screws back here. I'm going to see what this is, and if I can get into that mechanism from here. The thing of it is some of these rods and reels, some of this stuff, once you open them up, there could be all sorts of things in there that you don't want to mess with. There could be things that will, springs and all kind of stuff that will come flying out. So if I do this and that happens, I'll have to either try to put it back together, or let me see what I can do here, or I can get rid of the reel. It's been a good reel. I've had it a long time. But if it goes, it goes, and there's nothing I can do about it. I need to repair it. Plus, I want to do some cleaning. Now, that might be like a little, yeah, that's a spring. So we want to set that down. It's going to be fun trying to figure out how to put that back. That's what I'm talking about, stuff like that. Okay, so if we look at this, and my hands are trembling, I'll have to apologize, but that's pretty much the way that it works with me. I think this is like sealed, and it's the reason why it doesn't want to come off. But I need to get in here somehow and see if I can lubricate anything. Okay, as I do this, I've got this spring here. If I was to have pulled that, heaven only knows what might have happened at that point. So what I'm going to do, I have some 3-in-1 oil here, but the lid's broke. So what I'm going to do, this is Norton honing oil. It's actually more like mineral oil, so this might cause problems. It might not be enough. It might not have the viscosity. But now that right there, already feels better. And honestly, I would almost leave the little trigger off because I really don't flipping like them. The reel came that way. And so I'm going to see if I can get that trigger off or back on right. But if I can't, I'm certainly not going to cry about it. But I do believe if you look, I don't know if you can see, but there's a little hole right there. And if you look at that spring, it came out like that. So I think that little tip goes in that flipping hole. So let's try that. If you look, I don't know if you see how it has that piece. I don't know if you can see that piece of wire here that sticks out, and then it's got that piece of wire that sticks up. Well, it goes in here like this, and then when you flip it over and put it in, it locks into that hole up here, that little pin bending down, and that's what makes this work. But I don't know if I can get it to go in there. I'm sure you didn't see that. Pretty sure you didn't. I'm sorry I had to work on that spring however I had to. And that's the wrong one, dummy. And what I would say is, see how that's laying? Don't ever do that. Do what I say, not what I do. Ha 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 ha. Okay. Okay. I've got that fixed. So hopefully there won't be any issues with that. And I'm going to put this on. Pop this screw back in. And tighten it down. Okay, so that hopefully no water can get in that butt. The reel seems to be operating properly now. But what I'm going to do now, there is like a kind of a roughness to that I think is coming from either this other side. Let me that right there, that right there worries me. We're going to open it if we can. If it flies apart, so be it. I'm going to loosen that nut. The problem with all of these is they come kind of sort of the same, but not. These flipping things can all be kind of proprietary, and so you really never know what you're getting into. This cotter's got to come out. If I can get it to come out, because I can't open this without it. So no, so I'm not going to get that out. So what I want to do, I wanted to take it apart and lube all the gears and all that jazz. That is not going to happen. So we're going to have to just, what I'm going to do is if I can get it to go down on here the way it's supposed to. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this kind of loose and I'm just going to drop some oil down there. So I just drop some oil down underneath. I want to, you got to do whatever you need to do. A lot of these are easy to work on and a lot of these are not. And like I said, you never know until you start working with it which one you got, basically. And so that doesn't seem right. I see. Said the blind man to the deaf mute. This little piece of this washer here, it's got to go under this. So we've got to do one of these numbers. Like that. You see how that edge slides under that corner? And then we'll flatten this out. And I wouldn't normally do this extensively, but I had a problem with that bail. And sometimes what it can be is the bail is bent. But I looked at hold on a minute, let me tighten this down where I'm pretty sure it's not gonna come loose. All right, I looked at the bail, and if you look at this gap right here, you'll see that that's an even gap. It's not gapping on one end or the other. And that pretty much told me that the bail is straight. So what I've got is a mechanical issue, or what I had was a mechanical issue. And as old as this reel is, as long as I have had it, I'm pretty sure it was a lubrication issue. Could be wrong. And it's not like I never have been. And let me give you a tip for what it's worth. I know it won't help you much. But when you have hands that tremble like mine, this kind of stuff right here, this kind of stuff is from the devil. But we do what we must. That feels like 100,000 times better. Now, does it still work? Yeah, and it's clicking over a lot more positively. It's not as much force required. Now what I'm going to do, let's see. This drag, we'll take the tension off of it and pray to the Lord that when I take this out, everything doesn't fly out. But I want to look at the drag, make sure it's not got a bunch of grit in it, and clean it if I can. But I sure in the heck do not want it flying loose. It might. I mean, I released the tension as much as I could. Okay, so not much to it, and actually that looks pretty clean. But what I'm gonna do is just drop a little oil in there any blooming way for grins. There is usually lubrication grease inside here, and that's what we're going to do next. Is we're going to take that out. I'm kind of afraid of that. Okay, the drag is tightening up. Honestly, I'm kind of afraid of that because There could be all kinds of springs and things of that nature in there that is pretty scary. Come on out of there. I know you can. Okay, now as you see all that grit and stuff that's in there, that's called bad. We're gonna clean that out, but the first thing we're gonna do is see if we can tear it up. Let's open up this compartment here and see how badly we can mess things up. This is what I need right here. Cross your fingers. Cross your fingers. God help us. Your fingers. Cause this might be ugly. It might get ugly, folk. I might not be able to get in here. If that's the case, I'm not going to cry about it. But, hey. Yeah, okay, I see. This needs to be loosened so I can get in here. That's what's called trimmers, folks. And there's a reason that I loosened that, and that was it, so that I could get to this. And this has got to come loose. Got to be backed up so I can pull that up. Yeah. Not sure I'm not sure this is the greatest idea I've ever had. But we're going to find out. Yeah, see? Not a lot of grease left in that. So what I'm going to do, you see, I don't know if you can see how this grease is all kind of dried up. This is a gun lube called Slip 2000, and it's not something I would normally use for this because it's very expensive, but the thing about it is it has a really cool little applicator, and I'm just gonna put a very little bit of this right there. Anywhere I see a gear, and then some. Right on. I'm not even going to bother trying to pull that apart to clean it. I think the better part of valor is not to even try that. So we're not. But what I'm going to do, actually, that's a little rubber washer. So we're not going to mess with that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put this back together. If I can. Doesn't want to go on now. There. And before we lock it all down, I'm just gonna, well, no, I can't. I don't have a handle on it. I'm just a big old mess is what I am. But that's okay. It goes like that. Yep. Alright. Goes on the other side to keep it from getting oil and grease. And it goes on the opposite side of whichever way the handle is attached. You might not know what I'm talking about. I'll show you here in just a minute. Let's pull this again and get it out of the way. I'm just gonna get all these screws in here, and then I'm gonna tighten them down. And I'm not, you know, I'm not somebody that gets paid to service rod and reels. I'm just trying to make my rods and my reels last as long as possible. This has not been used in quite a long time, and I just now started using it, and I need to do a little bit of maintenance to it to make sure that it works right and doesn't break, because it's had so many years of misuse, disuse, and now all of a sudden there's too much going on with it, and something in it might break. So we're not looking for that to happen. We want this to always work. You see how that, I don't know if you can see it or not, but you see how that washer moves? It's cut out to fit around that nut. And you have to work it down in there until it latches properly in that nut, so that nut locks into it properly. So all right. Once again, Welcome to the wonderful world of trimmers. But you can't let stuff like that stop you. You gotta persevere. Let me see. Okay. I want that as centered as I can possibly get it. Alright. Then, where's the handle? And what I was talking about, I can't get it off now. But that little plastic washer there. See how open that is? What I'm going to do now that I've got that in there is I'm going to clean that. And I don't know if it matters, but I'm going to put a little bit in there. Going to tighten that down. That feels and sounds like a million times better. But that goes the other way. That's why that washer was on that other side. Why this? Because I got that little plastic washer that's on this piece here that I showed you. See how it pulled off that time, right? Well, that's because I got this set. I had this set up for lefty, not righty, and so that's why that washer was on this side. Fat boy, my brain ain't quite grabbing hold of everything. It ain't quite hitting reality because I'm old. But anyway, that feels like 1,000 times better. The bail is operating a lot smoother, because before, when it would stick, what I would do is if I did back that way, then it would pop. And I think that we have that sorted. It feels like 100% smoother now than it was. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a washcloth and some soap and wash this reel off real good and wipe it out in there and all of that jazz. And then we're going to pop it on. I like this reel because it has a what am I trying to say? It has a spare spool that you can put. I think this takes up to, let me see what the scale is. It'll take up to 12 pounds. So it has, I believe, 8-pound test on it now. And I have another spool that either has 10-pound or 12 pound. I'm not sure, but it came with a spare spool. That's one of the reasons that I like the reel, because it came with that spare spool. And that helps it be more versatile. I can take this rod, or this reel, and a rod, and the two different spools, and have two different types of test on it for different things, different applications. Honestly, for what it's worth, I tend to go with the smallest diameter, lightest line that I think I can get away with. And usually that depends on what I'm fishing for. But for bass, 8 pound or 10 pound is where I like to keep it most of the time, unless I'm fishing like really heavy areas where you snag a lot and things like that, and then I'll go to 12. All right, I'm gonna clean her up and then I'll be back. And there it is, ready to go. I basically just took a spray bottle of soapy water. It's amazing how many times that comes in handy for something besides sharpening things, a sharpening lubricant. But I took that and a toothbrush and scrubbed everything, even back in underneath here, all these places, to make the reel as clean as I could get it. It looks like almost like a brand new reel, and it feels like a brand new reel. Tighten up the drag, and the drag works fine. Trigger mechanism and the bail. The trigger mechanism and the bail are working just fine. That should give me another 20 or so years of service. It's pretty simple. You don't have to go through all the steps that I went through. You could basically just take this cap, this reel off, and loosen that up and put a little bit of oil down here, and maybe put some oil, pull this and put some oil in here, not down in the hole where this shaft goes through, but along the edges, so that it would leak back and forth into the mechanism. You could do it that way. Depending on, I was lucky on this one, depending on what's behind here and how the mechanism of the reel works, you could open this up and springs and all kinds of stuff could fly all over the place. So I don't recommend it. I take the risk because I understand that I want to get in there and lubricate and stuff. After I took the risk, I don't normally do that. Normally, what I normally do is pull this, loosen that nut, and run some oil, or take this assembly part off, run some oil down in it, and run some oil along the edges of the inside of this where I think that it will leak down into here, because I really don't want to do that. But this has given me 20 some odd years of service, and it needed to be serviced, and it's well worth doing. And so if something happened to this reel, it was in the 80s, I think it was about $30 or $40 for this reel. I don't know what they would charge for it now, but you know, it's not like a high dollar reel. If it breaks, or if I broke it, you know, I got 3 or 4 other rods and reels I can use. So, you know, that's I took that risk because I wanted to restore it. All of mine. I've got 3 more, I think, or 4 more rods and reels. They're all going to get a treatment similar to this because I've had them for so long, and they've really been in storage for 20 years since the last time I fished. So, well, no, maybe like 10 years, something like that. But I mean, I bought these, like I said, I bought these in the 80s. So you can say how, I don't know how long that was, 80, 90, 2000, 2010, 2020. They're like 40 years old, 35 or 40 years old. So if they break now, they break now. But they need, probably all of them need severe maintenance. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later.